All right, I see us on YouTube. That's great. All right. I hear us now on YouTube. And we have almost 35. Okay, we're gonna get started now. I got it. You'll see on the screen our opening, and we want to thank you all for being here. And do let you know this is part of our summer stride. Jarrel, give me a thumbs up if everything's cool. You can hear me, I can see you. All right. So, welcome to Summer Stride 2020. Thank you all for being here and gathering with us on Juneteenth weekend. Um, we are celebrating Summer Stride. It's not just for youth. You can sign up and get that iconic tote bag that we offer doing your 20 hours of reading. It's still happening. We have lots of virtual books, lots of ebooks for you to gather. In the chat box, I put a link to the document that I'll be sending out to you later, but you can pick it up now as all the links to upcoming events and things we'll be talking about today's program. So San Francisco Public Library wants to acknowledge the painful situation that our community is in and our country is in. And we want you to all to know that the library does not take a neutral stance in the matter and that we are here and stand in solidarity for those who are working towards collective action to end systematic racism and work towards equality and equity in our country. As a library, we're here to help our community by providing useful and factual information. And in that list, in that link, there's lots of resources to lists that we've created, and we are ongoing creating lists and ongoing creating programming and figuring out how the library can be part of this and how we can help. We also want to acknowledge the many Ramaytush Ohlone tribal groups and families as the rightful stewards on the land on which we reside. SFPL encourages you to learn more about Indigenous cultures and land rights. The library is committed to hosting events and providing educational resources available on topics such as land rights, Bay Area tribal communities, and first-person culture. The two resources that I love using one of them is called Native Land. It's an interactive map that is worldwide. You enter in whatever place you want to look for. It'll tell you what tribes are living there and what tribes are currently living there, what tribes lived there before, what treaties were in place, and what treaties have been broken. It's a really amazing map. And I put some other resources in there as well. We have one more Juneteenth event today at 4 o'clock, and it's a partnership with the African American Shakespeare Company and SF Arts Commission. The director of the Shakespeare Company will be interviewing Coleman Domingo, co-star of Selma. And the conversation will be talking about Domingo's career and life as an artist, activist, and talking about today's current climate amongst Black Lives Matter. The movie Selma is free on most platforms this month of June, so you can definitely check that out. We encourage that. And we have a bunch of upcoming Pride events as well, including a discussion on Tuesday about pre-Stonewall. Yep, there was gay people before Stonewall. So we're excited about that. And then we have a conversation with author Juliana Delgado Lopra and Miriam Gerba. This is in celebration of Juliana's new book. There it is right there. Both, I'm so excited about this one. Amazing book. I can't put it down. I wished I could do nothing else but finish the book. Both of those are on our website and promoted on social media. Again, if you don't follow us on social media, it's where you'll really find, especially Twitter and Instagram, you'll find our most recent lists and resources. So today's event we are excited about. Jarrel has been working with us at the library for quite a while. I guess it was about a year ago that Jarrel had a photo exhibit in the Jewett Gallery. I I've been working at the library for a very long time. By the way, I'm Anissa. I'm a librarian at the library, and I'll provide my email. You can always email me if there's anything you want at the library you want to see. Just shoot me an email. So when I started as bookshelver, I would always just hang out in the Jewett Gallery on all my breaks, and I love all the art there. So I'm obviously proud of the library. So I'm so happy to have Jarrel with us because we adopt library people. So Jarrel's honorary library family. Jarrel Phillips is a San Francisco educator, journalist, curator, and performing artist. Phillips uses film, photography, writing, and movement as mediums for sharing, connecting, and documenting stories. His work emphasizes folkloric arts and oral storytelling, especially with the African diaspora, and its global presence and influence. Phillips explores heritage, values, and community through a social culture lens. He pulls from his own life experience as a San Francisco native and world traveler. He believes our individual and collective stories build bridges across cultures and communities and spark dialogue that inspire personal and collective growth and transformation. And I also, before I turn it over, I want you to know that Jarrel is going to be also talking in August 15th, Saturday, August 15th, 2 p.m., about spirit of play and recreation. So, no, recreation. I guess, there we go.
Play on words.
I like that better anyway. All right, so I am going to, like I said, I'll be taking notes throughout the discussion. Any resources that come up, I will take notes on that, and we will find those resources and get them to you. And I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to you, Jarrel. It's all you. I'm also going to now pretend like I'm not here and hide myself. What? And mute myself.
What? Okay. I had to look at the clock. Good afternoon to all of you. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you, Anissa, for always making this happen. This happened. We made this happen at the beginning of this month. But I've always wanted to do something for Juneteenth. It's special to me, it's special to my family, and it's special to my neighborhood, to my community in Fillmore or Fillmore. And just giving honor to God, to Spirit, to our ancestors, those who are here before us, those here now, those to come. Thank you. And just to acknowledge a few of the only recent, unfortunately, those that are now ancestors: Tony McDade, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Toyin Salau, and George Floyd. And unfortunately, that goes all the way back before Trayvon, before Philando, before Emmett Till. But thank you, and thank you for your lives. I'm going to be sharing with you a little bit of really just my lens, what I get to see through the lens of the camera, my travels, not just across the world or around the world, but also just throughout San Francisco. I get to navigate many worlds, and I just want to share that perspective, just from my family to yours. And yeah, also, before I forget, I want to thank my family, my mother, my father, and all of you that have supported me. I really, really enjoy doing stuff for the San Francisco Public Library and for institutions in general. I believe it is extremely important that we show up in those places, extremely important, that our truth be everywhere. and that everybody hears it, because it's potent and it's powerful. Today we're here I'm going to screen share. Today we're here to acknowledge, honor Juneteenth. And just to be clear, I'm sharing my perspective, okay? Mine. And many people have their own, and I think that is extremely important to explore. And so I'm sharing mine. I represent myself, but I also act as an ambassador to my family and my community.
Jarrel, I'm going to interrupt you one moment. We're not getting your screen.
Which screen are you not getting?
Does everybody see Jarrel's screen, or are we still seeing the slides from earlier?
I put up, I put up my slides.
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, good.
All right, we
yeah,
see you. All right, yeah, okay. I'm not going to interrupt again.
Oh, all good. Do what you need to do, please. I don't handle this part. But yes, I do. I am conscious of the fact that I do want to represent my community. But we are not a monolith. So do your best to do your own research, but to make the necessary connections to others. So to me, Juneteenth represents Black freedom and power. This was a meme that I saw recently on Facebook. And it just was, it just highlighting all the things we learn and all the things we essentially don't learn. I'm very fortunate because I grew up in a community where my mother had me going to the African American Art and Culture Complex in Fillmore, had me in an all Black private school. So these were the things that I learned a lot of. It was actually maybe the Helen Keller instead of Du Bois that I needed to learn about. But I just thought it was extremely funny because even in light of the idea of Juneteenth and independence, we celebrate Independence Day, 1776, but we don't celebrate, or we don't all know about Juneteenth. Even more, I just learned about this date right here, July 4th, 1863, or I've learned of it before, but I think this is a date worth acknowledging if we're going to look at July 4th moving forward. Because it was the date, July 4th, 1863, was the surrender of Vicksburg. And that was essentially the turning point. It's considered the turning point for the war, which led to the Emancipation Proclamation, and it's eventually to Juneteenth, confirming the end to slavery. So maybe in the name of what we often call appropriation, maybe we can appropriate July 4th too, and acknowledge this as well. So as if you do not know, Juneteenth is significant because Southern states refused to end slavery. And there were 900 days between the Emancipation Proclamation and June 1st, 1863, and the real end of slavery in the USA on June 19th, 1865. Many states and many slave owners were doing their best to prevent having to let go of that privilege, which was depriving us of our just livelihood and our humanity. And so today I'm going to essentially, I don't get to show photos. This is a representation, a version of what I did for Black History Month. So it was a Black folk, joy, grace, and glory, where I shared photos from just all of my travels throughout the African diaspora. But today we're going to focus on film. I don't show everywhere I've been, so I chose to highlight only 3. And these places are near and dear to me. One of them is what I call my home away from home. And which is the first one that you'll eventually see. And the last one is my home, San Francisco, forever. And so I hope you enjoy. There will be moments where you'll hear my voice in it, especially in the beginning. I encourage you to read along. And then it will be moments where you won't hear my voice because I think it's very important that you hear your own, that you read it and internalize something different, because these dominant cultures tell us a whole lot of incomplete truths. So today is just in honor of not just Juneteenth, but truth and power. So I hope you enjoy. So I'm going to begin by telling you a true story about a man named Lit Young. Lit Young was born a slave in Mississippi to his mistress, Martha Gibbs, a wealthy Irish woman. She had so many slaves that she had to have two quarters. Lit Young's mother, father, sister, and two brothers were all slaves on the plantation, but his siblings were eventually sold off to the Simmons. Mistress Gibbs was fierce and wasn't afraid of any man. She had a white man for an overseer who lived in a little house close to the slave quarters to keep watch, and he loved any and every opportunity to use his whip on black people. Lit Young saw his daddy whipped almost every morning for oversleeping. You got a whipping if you didn't get out of bed as soon as the 4 a.m. bell rang. People also got whipped if they didn't pick their expected weight in cotton by the end of the evening. Lit Young especially enjoyed the Saturday night dances and ring plays they would have. They played banjos and fiddles while singing songs, laughing, and joking. All the slaves ate pretty well. The women who were too old to do field work did all the cooking. Turnip greens, peas, cornbread, hog jaw, and barrels of milk is what they ate often. Clothes were more scarce than the food. They got one set of clothes and one pair of shoes every Christmas, and it had to last the entire year. Otherwise, they would just go necking. Lit Young was about 14 years old when the Yankees came to Vicksburg, Mississippi. All the slaves went down to see the boats come in. The slaves were told to go back to their quarters because bullets and cannons were soon to be flying. Lit Young witnessed all of this because Mistress Gibbs' plantation was the battleground for the Battle of Vicksburg, one of the defining moments of the Civil War, which would lead to the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863. After the Confederates surrendered, Mistress Gibbs was arrested and held for 3 days inside the church where the slaves went to learn about minding their masters. She unwillingly freed all her slaves. Her second husband, Mr. Gibbs, left with Lit Young's father and a few others and never returned, claiming he was going to fetch more corn. He had been an undercover Yankee the whole time. When he left, Mistress Gibbs seized as many black people as she could, including Lit Young, and headed to Texas so that she could keep them as slaves. Texas was one of the last places to enforce the new laws. She left with 10 Irish guards, guns and all, and even tied everyone up to trees at night just to make sure no one tried to run away. They walked all the way from Mississippi, settling about 3 miles outside of Marshall, Texas. Lit Young and the others worked to produce the first crops for Mistress Gibbs, and shortly after, on June 19th, she set everyone free when it became enforced. Lit Young and his mother stayed in Texas, but he never saw his father again. He worked many jobs after, the mills, cutting wood, and working the railroads. He helped with clearing a lot of the land known today as Texarkana. He married and raised 6 girls and had 3 sets of grandchildren. Lit Young is my maternal great-great-great-grandfather. Maury Turner, a renowned American cartoonist, created this caricature of Lit Young for my uncle years ago. Lit Young was said to have been quite a character and very honest, and so he is depicted here as a jester, a representation of the trickster archetype. Tricksters are heroes in African American folklore for their ability to outsmart stronger opponents. I grew up on Brer Rabbit, Anansi, and the signifying monkey. The jester is known to speak truth to the king, being the only one who could question, make fun, and point out the obvious to the king and his ideas. He is the one who tells the emperor he is actually naked and looks ridiculous in the tale, The Emperor's New Clothes.
Welcome to Haiti. Bienvenue la Kainou. Welcome to Haiti. 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 Bienvenue à Haiti. Wow. Welcome to our own. My first thought is that it's a lot to digest. And we were exposed to a lot of things that most tourists would not have access to. I especially enjoyed the sacred waterfalls of Sado and the rituals of Voodoo and the practices and the whole experience at Souvenance and Gonai. Actually missed Souvenance last year, and I felt like something was missing, and so I was able to capture the magic that happens there, and so I was very thankful for that. I know that Haiti is a very special place, but I didn't know that was this special. It's so strong. It's so, I can come here again. It's so beautiful place. So I'm very blessed to be here. I don't want to leave. It's so strong, so alive. I brought folkloric Afro contemporary from Brazil and to exchange here in Haiti. And well, so I think I was the one who received more. Spirituality, community, love. For someone that wants an authentic experience in Haiti, I don't know of any trip that could deliver on that more than this one. I would totally recommend this trip for someone that wants a complete immersion into Haitian life and culture and music. Not for the faint of heart, but it's definitely worth the experience, and I think 2 weeks is a really solid amount of time. I also really enjoyed the dance classes.
You want me to tell you about San Francisco? I'll tell you about San Francisco.
Said we do need to talk about Black life and Black existence and Black survival because it's a crucial time.
It's a way for you to articulate the move that you want to make.
Nationwide, it's important to know the impact that African Americans in San Francisco had on things that actually reverberated out into the country.
Everything we walk out that house is history. Everything we get out that bed is history. We think history comes other people make on top of our backs. We make our own history just by breathing.
And your future is tomorrow. I mean, future is not way off someplace. The future actually is the next moment. And so it's important to be in the present.
Are we celebrating our culture enough so that we have pride that is passed on to future generations?
You know, I think it was Alice Walker who said there'll come a time, if you don't document your own history, there'll come a time when they tell you it didn't exist.
But part of that was because they don't know our history here, and we don't know it to tell them.
but it's still alive and it's still here. You just have to know where to find it. So
This is San Francisco Americans pretend does not exist. They think I'm making it up.
It's not history, it's our story. And we continue to be a part of all of this, and our places are solid.
African Americans built San Francisco. And I don't just mean the bricks. Look at people like Liedersdorf, whose statue is in the financial district. You know, he's one of the key architects to figure out whether San Francisco was going to be called San Francisco Yerba Buena.
To Mary Ellen Pleasant, she was called the Black Mayor of San Francisco. Her house.
100 years before Willie Brown.
100 years before Willie Brown.
Ruth Williams, who really was a pioneer and really an activist.
That a Black man paid for the first public school in San Francisco. Blacks weren't allowed in public schools in San Francisco.
and ethnic studies started at San Francisco State.
San Francisco became our central distribution for our newspaper, where we would ship it all over the country and all over the world.
It's the people who came before you that pushed you into where you are now.
Every place in America where there are Black people, there are stories of how we made a difference that we don't know. You want to talk about Black people in San Francisco? Look at us.
I grew up in Mount Davidson,
Excelsior, Ingleside districts.
Potrero Hill,
Visitation Valley,
Haight-Ashbury, the Mission District, Castro neighborhood, Noe Valley, Bayview,
Philmo, San Francisco.
I would say that San Francisco is a very beautiful city. We still have African Americans living here.
despite all this crap I'm talking about, there is like a sense of hope. Because there are so many people who are energized and motivated. So it feels like great things can happen here. There's like a special energy.
There was the humor, there was the resilience of San Francisco, the cultural vitality, which always attracted and amazed me, and it still does.
I feel like it's special because you can recreate yourself here. Everybody kind of wants to be innovative and free. Just quietly walking, observing people, observing the landscape becomes strong inspiration for a lot of my artwork.
Being a native San Franciscan, one wonderful thing about this city is that you're in a place where the world comes in.
From the Spanish-speaking population to even the French-speaking population to Asian Americans, Indian Americans. I think there's a lot here in terms of kind of the world stage.
A city that, has more movement, a lot of people around, a lot of dance classes and the bars, nightclubs.
It's true education. It's a true place where you can get educated and learn about people and cultures.
It's where I think the heart of San Francisco's Black community is really strong, is in our relationships with each other and how we support and recognize each other.
We are very strong, to be here. We are a heart. We are a heart.
San Francisco is one of the most well-known cities in the world, most visited, I would say.
People are concerned now about certainly housing and jobs and safety. And so I ask questions like, well, what do you think is a livable community? What are things that make that up? And how would you see that being played out in San Francisco?
The challenges now is a little more, I would say, social.
And when I look at what's happened with Black Lives Matter, who is that? That's our young people, and I feel that we are in good hands.
They say a lot, I'm Black and I'm proud. Because it's the same thing. It's like Black Lives Matter to me is a new recognition that your Blackness matters, that you matter as like an individual, and to not forget that. The history hasn't stopped, it hasn't changed. It's just as relevant then as it is now. If not more so, because we live in a time of such fast communication.
Ain't no more. There ain't gonna be no place when they get through. I know, bro. We're gonna be living out on the street. Make you feel bad? Yeah, make you feel bad. Won't be no place to go. We be living out here on streets and tents. Where would you like to go if you could? What part of San Francisco would you like to go? I like to stay up here on top of the hill. You would? How long have you been living on top of here? Ever since I've been born.
I call it Katrina without the water. And that's what's going on. People are being displaced.
Cities become more and more gentrified.
Of different segment, black, white, Asian.
I started looking around like, wait a minute, what just happened? How did I become the outsider in a place where I grew up?
They're trying to tear down our homes, brother. And it's time for you to do something. But what can we do? We don't know anything about what's going on. I mean, we try to go to the meeting and things like that.
You got the San Francisco legend, too, which is that it's a cosmopolitan and forward-looking. But it's just another American city. Children dying here, they are in New York for the very same reason. Nobody wants to destroy the image of San Francisco.
Those cops getting off and killing Alexander was planned. They don't want this to be that city. We can't say that like the racism doesn't exist here. We know that it exists here as well.
The violence that goes on in the community and from police violence. The shooting of Marlon Woods has. I know we can craft something much better to prevent something like this from happening again. I know that.
Let me ask you one thing. What do police do when they get mad? What do police do when they get mad? I mean, we ordinary citizens, when we get mad, we can do things to hurt people and rob and steal. What do they do when they get mad? Who do they take their steam off on? I think you know the answer to that question. Well, I couldn't answer that because the police has never bothered me in that way, but I read newspapers. And I've been living around here all my life, and I see things going on. Well, when a policeman gets mad, he's got a gun, he's got a club.
There's police brutality. And I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon and say I hate all cops. No, I don't hate all cops. I hate crooked cops.
In this community is a huge piece of activism around just respecting people's civil rights, you know, and not shooting people, not killing people.
You still have the police abuse, police murders. That's at the core of the Black Lives Matter. You know, even before it was even a call Black Lives Matter, Black Lives was mattering.
It's as though the society made the assumption and certainly acts on the assumption that to make money is more important than to have citizens. You're paying too high a price for this. Because it's only what it's doing to Negro children, which is God knows bad enough. It's what it does to white children who grow up believing that it is more important to make a profit than it is to be a man. So I don't care what society says. This is what it operates. These are the goals it sets.
My mother told me that if there were any superior people on the face of this earth, that you were part of that group. You can decide, no, this is for me. This is for me, and I'm going to make it for me. And if you don't think it's for me, you just wait and see.
How can we have this conversation to where all our common interests are met? It's a reliance on the hard dollar. How do we take that out of the conversation and just focus on common interests? We find our common interests, then that hard dollar will match that. And we're able to build a community that's reflective of the needs of which the policymakers in the form of local government, large developers, and the community residents.
You know, it's cliche, but it's true. When the tide rises, all boats rise. We become stronger, not just we Black as a people, but as a community, as a city. So do we need each other? Yes, we need each other. Because as soon as they finish with one group, then they get on to the next group. And the fight is the same.
We can produce radical change. The question is, will we do it bringing everyone along for the ride, or will we displace so many people that it will no longer be that place of radical transformation, but yet a new place of neoliberal bullshit, right?
Foundation is going to come down one way or another. Either we will correct what's wrong, or it'll be corrected for us.
I am San Francisco.
I am San Francisco.
I am San Francisco.
I'm a San Francisco.
You are San Francisco.
We are San Francisco.
And this is our city.
This is our home.
And we're going to make this city much better than it is right now.
Let me tell you about San Francisco. I'll tell you about San Francisco. I'll tell you about San
guillotine for the politicians. War criminals go rot in prison. Millionaires pay not to listen, but you still vote, burn the system. Wanna change, bring the ammunition. Ain't moving with the pan division. Dream team, play your position. Pray first, don't doubt your faith. Power moves don't amount to cake. Don't matter what amount you make. That will never end the occupation. Hit the land, this is not your nation. And I put it all on creation. Want it all, that includes the station. Better report back to Bay. Doors wide open, stimulate these runs. Dream don't stop, better wake these drums. Flows on top and break.
Morning to you, man. Morning to your love. I say, Africa must wake up, sleeping sons of Jacob, for what tomorrow may bring. May a better day come. Yesterday we workings. Can you tell me, young ones, who are we today? Yeah, now. Well, Africa must wake up, the sleeping sons of Jacob, for what tomorrow may bring. May a better day come. Yesterday we workings. Can you tell me, young ones, who are we today? Yeah, now.
The black oasis, ancient Africa, the sacred, awaken the sleeping giant. Science, art is your creation. A drip that we can visit, old Kemet. Your history is too complex and rigid for some Western critics. They want the whole subject diminished, but Africa's the origin of all the world's religions. We praise bridges that carried us over the battlefronts of Sudanic soldiers. The task put before us.
You hear me out? Africa must wake up. Sleeping sons of Jacob, for what tomorrow may bring. May a better day come. This the day we workings. Can you tell me, young ones, who are we today? Yeah, now. Well, Africa must wake up. The sleeping sons of Jacob, for what tomorrow may bring. May a better day come. This the day we workings. Can you tell me, young ones, who are we today?
Who are we today? The slums, diseases, AIDS. We need that all to fade. We cannot be afraid. So who are we today? We are the morning after. The makeshift youth, the slave ship captured. Our diaspora is the final chapter. The ancestral lineage built pyramids. America's first immigrant. The king's son and daughters from now orders. The first architect, the first philosophers, astronomers. The first prophets and the doctors was us.
Now can we all pray, each in his own way, teaching and learning. We can work it out. We'll have a warm bed, we'll have some warm bread, shelter from the storm dread, and we can work it out. Mother Nature feeds all, in famine and drought. Tell those selfish in ways not to share us out. What's a tree without root? Lion without truth, a lie without truth. You hear me out? Africa must wake up, the sleeping sons of Jacob, for what tomorrow may bring. May a better day come. Yesterday we working. Can you tell me, young ones, who are we today? Yeah, Lord. Well, Africa must wake up, the sleeping sons of Jacob, for what tomorrow may bring. May some more love come. Yesterday we working. I tell you, young blood, this world is yours today. Daddy, oh, daddy, why you love the tea? Oninki don't take teacher, why think it eat? Otan makila teso, why think it do shit? Ota ninki tam I, why think it do hey? Daddy, oh, daddy, why you love the tea? Oninki don't take teacher, why think it eat? Otan makila teso, why think it do shit? Ota ninki tam I, why think it do
We want to thank y'all, everybody out there. This is Nas, Damian Marley, distant relatives. We're all distant relatives, no matter where you're from, where you live, how near, how far. Africa, China, Japan, Afghanistan, Israel. We're all fam. We're all distant relatives. So that's why we came together. One of the reasons myself and Damien came together. Because we all come from one place, and that's Africa. That's right, you too. And you. The whole world. We're all family. We just spread out all over the place. So to all my distant relatives, let's take it back home.
I said, well, Africa must wake up, the sleeping sons of Jacob, for what tomorrow may bring. May a better day come. Yesterday we workings. Can you tell me, young ones, who are we today? Yeah, now. Well, Africa must wake up, the sleeping sons of Jacob, for what tomorrow may bring. May a better day come. Yesterday we workings. Can you tell me, young ones, who are we today? Who are we today? Morning to you. Morning to you, man. Morning to you, love.
I know we're all clapping out there, I swear. That was so great. Oh my gosh.
It was a lot. I've seen it so many times and I love it every time. I appreciate it.
We can't hear you very well though.
I said I've seen it so many times and I still love watching it. There's so many thoughts that go on in my mind as I'm watching it. It's one thing to watch it on my own. It's one thing watching it with the different audiences and crowds, whether it's young people or adults. This one's interesting because it's on Zoom, so I don't really know who I'm talking to. And so I'm gonna just share my screen one more time and just show a couple of, highlight a couple of things that I think are important. And then
we're all here. There's about 60 viewers right now, if that gives you an idea, from here and YouTube. So we are all attentive.
Can everybody see the screen now? Am I sharing screen? Yeah.
I got it.
Okay. So if I were to say anything, it's just like one, what are the stories you tell? And what are the stories you've been told? Because we enact stories. It's how we see the world. They affect and impact and influence our our not just our behaviors, what we do, what we share, what we pass down. And so I encourage everyone to just educate yourselves beyond books. And I'm speaking to myself also as I do this. Explore your heritage. It's very hard to respect someone else's home if you don't know how to respect your own. So learn about your home just as much as others. talk to elders. Seriously, talk to elders. I keep being told that elders want to talk to everybody, and maybe sometimes it doesn't seem that way, but talk to them because they have so much just lived experience. Whether you agree with it or not, it's still a perspective worth hearing. Be mindful and be careful of what you teach. I can't actually see everything right now because my face is blocking it, but be mindful and careful of everything you do and what you teach. And when I say careful, I think of it as in a sense of full of care, because we make mistakes, right? But hold yourself accountable the same way we point fingers on social media. Look at yourself, take action. This is something that my grandfather, same side of the family as Lit Young, so I guess that would have been his great grandfather. When I interviewed him, he had written this: Fillmore was extremely active. Black people owned almost everything up and down Fillmore. I particularly remember one bar on Fillmore and Bush Street called Texas Playhouse. It was owned by an old timer from Houston, Texas named Wesley Johnson. All the big shots like Billie Holiday, Leola King, Charles Sullivan came to his joint. He also founded San Francisco's Juneteenth Festival, which is celebrated June 19th, 1865, when Texas slaves learned that they had been emancipated. And so this was just, my grandfather's no longer here, but he's here differently. Like right now on his screen, in his words. And this is something I just pulled last night because it was just like, this was a man that he admired. And it's so interesting because he's a man that I admire. Right. And so to hear, like he said, he wore his cowboy hats because that's where Wesley Johnson did that. And Wesley Johnson is somebody that he started the San Francisco Juneteenth. And that's something that's always been very significant in my growing up. I always heard about it, even if I didn't make it every year. There was something that you always knew was happening, especially in Fillmore, which is AKA the Harlem of the West. These are just a few things. You can read them yourself.
Do you think this is something we could share in the shared document later?
Yeah, I'll have to send it to you.
Sure.
I don't know how to do all that. Yes. Zoom and technology is daunting.
I took a screenshot, so we're good.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you. But yeah, whatever you read from there is what you were supposed to read. And just like DeVore Major said in the piece, DeVore Major was a San Francisco Poet Laureate, and as far as I'm concerned, a living legend with a lot of wisdom. She did a show called Classic Black, which explores Black history in San Francisco in the early 19th century and beyond and before. But what she said, when the tide rises, all boats rise. And so when we say Black lives, and in doing so, we speak to a greater vision for humanity, all of ours. And so this was a photo I took in Zanzibar, Tanzania. Zanzibar is an island off the east side of Africa. And it had a big slave trade. It was actually one of the big slave ports on that side of the world. I believe more Arab, but Zanzibar is known for its spice trade. So that's what the Africans were being forced to produce there. And this was one of the slave chambers, which was extremely tiny, even for me, and I'm little. And I called it Unbounded. So to being boundless, in honor of Juneteenth, to being boundless, but also in our boundlessness, recognizing the necessary boundaries so that when we cross them, when we traverse them, we do so consciously or to the best of our ability. And that's it. That's it. I could talk forever.
I'm clapping. I know it is weird, but I know people are out there clapping. Give it up, everybody.
That's
Yes.
fun.
So there are some you can check on the chat, and there's some love in the question and answer box. There's some clapping. It's virtual. The virtual love is being given. I'm turning my video back on. And we want to open it up to some questions if anybody would like. I saw there's a question about sharing it on YouTube. I will definitely, it's just going to be, you know, if you Googled SFPL YouTube, you would find it. And we'll make sure that Jarrel is okay with this being on permanently on YouTube. Otherwise, it's going to be short term.
Yeah.
But
the
it's
thing is, some of it, I don't think it honestly can in full because I don't have the rights to all of the music. So that's
watch it now.
Yeah, that's I need to figure that out. Well, I know what I can do,
We don't,
but
we're a library. We love the fair use clause and copyright action.
yeah, I don't have a
I'm just
choice.
kidding,
I don't
folks.
want it to get taken off.
So it's up for now, and yeah, it was amazing. The film, the San Francisco film, was so good. Oh my gosh, and it was so fun, like recognizing the folks there and some of the artists. Does anyone have questions? Go ahead.
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
That San Francisco film, I'm working on a book for it. It consists of, that wasn't even everybody in it. I interviewed over 45 people. The interviews that was just a montage creating one conversation, which is the idea, because it always is. It's one in many. But each interview is like an hour to 2 hours long, all transcribed to 20 to 30 pages each. And so that will be coming soon. But that's what we always say, like, there's no Black people in San Francisco. And you can go and say that everywhere about anything. Be mindful of the narratives you tell, because we here. And I'm talking to Black people too.
Would anyone like to ask a question? That's a lot of oral history tape you have. Did you did it all video?
Yes, it was all video recorded and then transcribed after. So I have it in audio, I have it in video, I have it in typed out, written out. I also have synthesized each conversation into 1 to 2 pages. I've shown that in previous exhibitions. The idea is for it to become a book. It's been published. Those pieces that have been synthesized have been, or condensed, have been published in Reimagined, which is a national journal. Yeah, but I need to share it.
Yes, you have a home at the library, always. Looks like people are being a little shy. We'll give it a few seconds, but if there's anyone who has questions, we can always, I put my email there in the chat, and you can find Jarrel online, but I'll also put all of his links in there. There was quite a few resources deep in some of the films, which is great. But he is easy to find online. All of his work there.
That's funny.
All of those films were great. Oh my gosh, what beautiful footage. Wow. So amazing. I'm not seeing the links in the chat. Okay, here is that link again. Oh, and you know the
some of it is on my website, jarrelphillips.com.
Can we all see that link? I was going to say the link to Take This Hammer is also available. That is free viewing. Not copyright quite used, but hopefully that'll happen. I think it could happen. It's a beautiful film. I don't know why they wouldn't grant it. But so it's available with a partnership between SFSU and KQED. So free viewing for this film. It's a really beautiful film, powerful, and it's just every time we start talking like history, I'm just like, how have we not gone forward? So please absorb some of this stuff. I think the link needs to be shared with the. Oh, my bad.
Say another thing about that in a second.
Let's try this.
I want to say something to that.
Yes.
Two things. So first, you can find stuff on my website, jarrelphillips.com. I've had it for over a year. My lady made it for me, but I'm slow to share everything because I'm shy. But it has stuff on there. I'm including interviews from like my grandfather, my grandmother, and stuff. But also like when I say like when all tides rise, when a tide rises, all boats rise, or when we say Black lives, we're talking about all of humanity. Like this idea of anti-Blackness, like it's us, it's us, but it's us. Like seriously, in a sense that like you can even think about it like how people say nothing is like there's no Black people in San Francisco. Or I was in Rio or Rio recently, and like you could go be there and damn near not see any Black people, right? And that same concept can be linked to many things where the stories we tell say that things don't exist, right? And what we're looking for does exist. It does. And we can create it. Like we can create it if we really feel it doesn't work, if it doesn't fit for us, mindfully, carefully, but they exist. We tell ourselves to the point we program ourselves, right? When then we don't know how to recognize or recognize those things. We say it over and over to the point that we believe it, and every new person that comes into our communities believes it too, because we represent our communities, right? And so like there should be more of it though, so that I feel like that sentiment that we often say is more speaking to that, that we could have more of it, and that's where we come in, you know. But these things, they exist. They're all around. Everything I just showed, I didn't make that up. Like I didn't make any of it up. Like I was there. Everybody I talked to, those are people still in San Francisco. So that even goes to that myth, right? So like something needs to be done, like because it's true and not true. It's incomplete, right? But even like as we've sat here like these past 4 or 5 months or 3 months, however long it's been now with COVID, right? And we're starting to realize everything we've taken for granted, right? The things we've prioritized over other things, right? Like the air we breathe, like the socializing we didn't realize our work lives did for us. We would look at people that hang out on the street, or hang out on a stoop and chill, or seem to just be living their best lives and not being productive in the sense of monetary gain. That's important too. Don't get me wrong, that's important. Economics is important. But it's like we have to invalidate other things to validate whatever we're trying to prioritize, right? And so then we realize in our work lives, we was also getting our social lives done, right? We don't realize when we send our kids to school, which is important that we realize, we're socializing them. They spend more time in school than they do at home. So what are your teachers teaching them? What are you teaching them? What are you checking in about? These things are happening whether you know it or not, right? It's like I wrote something recently, but it's like this idea, like people know it with their dogs. Like if you don't teach your dog not to pee in a house, you're teaching them to pee in a house, right? So like, it's like, we're doing it whether we realize it or not. And oftentimes, like, if we like start to understand in the sense of our power, what we're creating, consciously and unconsciously, that can feel like, the thing is, some people don't want to think about that because it feels like sounds like a burden. It's a lot of accountability, but it also can be, I don't know, magical. It can, like, it's, uh, I enjoy it. Like I was 18 years old. I've been teaching kids since I was 14. I'm 33 years old now. I've always worked with young people since I was a young person, and I'm still young. And I was about 18, 19 years old when I realized I couldn't just roll around everywhere talking how I chose, like yelling and cussing. And I just, I couldn't do that. Even though I wanted to, I was only 19 years old. But everywhere I went, I was already running into young people that were 8, 9 years old. Now all of them are like probably like 25 and stuff. And so I had to learn right away that I couldn't just, I was role modeling or being seen even when I didn't want to be. Like everybody wants to be a teacher, but they don't want the accountability that comes with it. Right. And so I had to learn very early, and I'm not perfect. I shown ain't perfect. But I had to learn real early that like I couldn't just do what I wanted. And that can sound confining. It can sound like another